Morning, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. There's Bugsy Malone. She's up ahead. How you doing? This is episode 240, I believe, of Tottenham Walks. We want to wish you all the health and happiness in the world, making sure that you're doing the things you love with the people that you love doing them with. Please do me a favour, guys. Like you always do, smash the like button on the video. Yesterday's video got over 800 likes in the first video. Absolutely insane support. Really appreciate it. That's a record for the channel. Whilst you're at it, guys, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Joined the 9,300 and change of people that have gone before. And welcome back to all of those. Welcome to the new. How are you? Make yourself at home. Whilst you also hit the notification bell and drop a comment, let me know your thoughts on today's video. And we've got two transfer news to get through today. I wake up on this lovely Saturday morning. Didn't sleep very well last night. It was too hot. And I didn't want to really come out and do this walk. But then I go onto Twitter and I see two pretty well-informed journalists talking about two players that haven't, in my opinion, or from my memory, been linked with Tottenham before. And I thought, oh, they're interesting. Let's get out there and do it. And the first name from Romano, so we take it seriously. When Romano talks, I talk about what Romano talked about. Romano talked about Mickey van der Ven. Wolfsburg, 22-year-old, 6'4" left-footed centre-back, left-sided centre-back, can also play left-back. Very highly rated in Germany, very highly rated in Europe, very highly rated by Jacob from United Spurs of America. Shout out to him. He's been banging on about this guy for weeks. And he thinks he's the answer to our left-sided centre-back problems. The transfer market valuation is about 32 million euros, which probably means £45 million if he is as sought after as people are saying he is. Look, I wasn't too familiar with him. I've heard his name. I've seen the highlights before in European compilations and clips, but I'm not saying that I'm spectacularly over his track record, his ability. So in that situation, I look at the stats and I look at the footage and I look at Y-Scout to go into the specificities of what we need him to do and see if he's any good at it. And I think with this particular player, it's a tale of two stories and a justification as to why you should never trust just your seeing eye test or trust just the stats, because occasionally they can both lie to you or both tell different ends of the story. And I think with Van der Ven, it's one of those. If you look at the stats, he comes across as a very good player, good at everything, not spectacular at anything, like a Max Kilman type, or how I've described Max Kilman according to the stats. Good at everything, not great at anything. A solid 7. And I think Van der Ven at 22 has a ridiculously high ceiling. Doesn't always mean that he's going to reach the ceiling just because he's got potential and time on his side. But the stats are a little bit, I'm not going to say underwhelming, but they're not overwhelming. They're on the bottom end of the whelming spectrum. Like, I'm whelmed, but you know what I mean? He's okay, he's good, but for 45 million euros, 40 million euros, whatever, you have to be thinking that this guy is ready, and the stats don't tell me that he is. So then I pivot to the Y-Scout, look at the individual footage, at things like how good is he with the ball at his feet, how good is he in the air, how good is he at tackling interceptions, how fast is he, how strong is he, all those different areas. And you know what, the stats and the footage don't add up. The stats will tell you that he's terrible in the air. At 6'4", I was like, really? That's surprising. Let's go and dial in and see why. And actually, where his stats are kind of manipulated negatively are because in many situations, balls are getting pinged out to irrelevant areas where he's jumping somewhat unnecessarily in aerial duels, but there was no damage done. But when he's in tricky situations, in the box, clearing headers, clearing crosses, he wins the majority of them and is very solid at getting the ball out of the danger area. It's just that the frequency of those situations happening versus the frequency of other aerial duels is such that the stats can be manipulated. So that's just an example of what I mean. You can make the same argument for a few of the stats as well. When you look at his pace, for 6'4", he's incredibly fast. There was a couple of times I saw where the team got themselves in trouble. I think it was from corners and the goalkeeper had come up and the transition had happened and the brakes were going against the other way, and Van der Ven is sprinting 80 metres and gets back like in seriously quick time. So he's got long legs on him and he can move them fast. He's also very, very comfortable with the ball at his feet, which is super important. He's very reassuring and a calm presence. He almost looks a bit languid. Go as far as to say a little bit like Dembele-esque with the way that he can kind of just drag the ball around. Maybe that's a stretch, but the point is that I think he's very impressive with the ball at his feet. He can break the line, and that is such an important on-the-ball metric for a defender in the Postecoglou system, that you can break past the forward, you can break past the winger, and then force the midfielders to come out and press and try and intercept you or tackle you, which obviously opens up the space for people further up the pitch. So very good on the ball, very good pinging the ball with his left foot. He's got a real dime of a left peg on him. I wouldn't say he's very strong with his right foot. And where I'd actually go as far as to criticise him is when he does make those little mazy runs or breaks the line, sometimes he looks up and then that final pass into the feet of the person that's more advanced, that should have pace or should have space, is paced badly. It's either too slow or too fast, and it creates a miscontrol from the midfielder on the receiving end. And I think sometimes that's where the stats can show a little bit more of the truth, in that his accuracy of his passes in that midfield or in that final third is pretty poor. But like I say, all of these things can be improved on. When you're 22, you're still learning the game. I just wonder whether or not at 32 million euros valuation, which means 40 million, 45 million deal time, whether or not he is ready to come in and be the mainstay. At 22, is he going to be, who's going to be the leader out of Romero and him? I'm not sure. Are we talking about this as a backup to Tapsoba, or is it a replacement for Tapsoba? I'd be very surprised if Tottenham were to spend £40 million on one centre-back, let alone two. But Romano is saying that Tottenham are very keen on him and that conversations have already happened with Wolfsburg. So, not with Wolfsburg, with the agent, Raiola. Is it Raiola? The guy who passed away. The agent who passed away, who was Erling Haaland's agent, who had a reputation for being really greedy and like making deal structures where he got paid gazillions, and so did the families of the players. He passed away, but Team Raiola is still going on. I don't know whether his absence from that team means that they're now more reasonable, or whether they're still more difficult to deal with. I'm not sure. For me personally, here's how I'd summarise my thoughts on Van de Ven. A very talented player. I am appropriately whelmed. I'm not overwhelmed by him. I'm not underwhelmed by him. I think he's solid. I like what I see when I look at the footage. I don't particularly like what I see when I look at the stats. But I'm not sure I'd want him to be my first choice signing. If he's coming in as a squad player to rotate, to compete and one for the future, etc., then for sure. As long as there's enough money to get Tapsoba in or someone of that quality in, and obviously then also not to overlook or neglect what we need to do at the top end of the pitch with regards Maddison or whoever else, Harvey Barnes, or maybe this next guy who we've also been linked with, which is West Ham's Jarrod Bowen. A really strange one, this one, come from Charlie Eccleshare, saying that Tottenham are very interested in Jarrod Bowen. He acknowledges that it's going to be difficult to sign him because it's West Ham. And look, I'm not going to take this one too seriously because, like Charlie Eccleshare says, it is West Ham. How often do Tottenham and West Ham do business? Very, very rarely. I think he's valued at about 45 million euros on transfer market. I think you'd add a lot more than that if it was going to tempt West Ham's hand. Also, is Jarrod Bowen really going to risk the ire of the West Ham fans by joining Tottenham? Does he even want to join Tottenham? Does he really see Tottenham as a massive opportunity at this stage? I'm not sure. I really like Jarrod Bowen. I think he's a fantastic player. I think in 52 games in all competitions last season, I think he got 21 or 22 goal contributions. I think it was 13 goals and 8 assists. He can play as a striker. He can play on the right wing. He could even kind of play in the 10 role as well. So I don't know if maybe this story is there as an option B. If Maddison doesn't work out, that kind of might make sense. If he's being brought in as an option as a striker, then what does that tell you about either the plans for Richarlison or maybe the plans for Harry Kane? There was that news out yesterday that Harry Kane's family has been speaking to Bayern Munich, and that reports in Germany are that actually Harry Kane's family are quite interested in the move out to Munich, which would be a surprise to me if I'm entirely honest. But look, the rumours won't go away that Harry Kane, is looking for a move, and if Daniel Levy won't sanction a move to Manchester United and he really does want out, then maybe Bayern Munich is the only option, seeing as Real Madrid have said that they're not going to be signing any more players this year. I don't know. It would make sense if Harry Kane is on his way out. We need another striker, and Jarrod Bowen is very, very talented. He's a really good player. But unless something ridiculous happens, I'm not even going to really waste too much more time talking about that one, because I just think the whole complexity of the deal, given the two clubs, who the player is, how important he is to their fans, I just think for a bunch of different reasons, it's a dead on arrival deal. So let's move on. As I say, with Van der Ven, guys, in summary, it depends on who and what we're kind of planning on doing with regard to centre backs. If it's Max Kilman, Tapsoba, or Van der Ven, for me, I want Tapsoba first. After that, Van der Ven or Kilman. It's an interesting one, that. I probably would take Max Kilman over Van der Ven, just because I know that he's done it in the Premier League and I know he's super reliable. And I don't particularly know, I'm not confident really in my understanding of the player Van der Ven yet. Like, I've done as best I can looking into him, but I'm more confused than certain of whether I think he's as superb a player as a lot of people do. He's got time on his side. I just don't think I'd like him to come in as our number one left-sided centre-back. The last name I wanted to get off my chest quickly was Gleison Bremer. That rumour's come back out again over the last couple of days. Juventus are looking to cash in. They do need to raise money, and Bremer is someone that they would happily let go of. You know how much I love Gleison Bremer as a player. If you've been watching my channel, I think he's an absolute beast, a monster. What I would say is that Bremer in a Conte system was when I fell in love with Bremer. In the middle of a back three, ship Dyer out, bring Bremer in, let him just be large and in charge and bully everyone, and have Romero to his right, and then have somebody, whoever it was going to be on the left. In a high line back four, I don't necessarily think it's quite as good of a fit. Bremer's not as good in the air. He's not 6'4". I think he's relatively stocky, but he's not a huge guy. He is good in the air, but he's not that commanding. He is fast, but he's not that kind of player that does everything that we need a ball-playing centre-back to do. Does that mean I don't want him? Absolutely not. If the money was right, and if Postecoglou thinks that Bremer has the ability to be moulded into what he needs of him, and I think Bremer has the ability to be anything that he's asked to be, then I'd be all over it. But again, I think that there are easier fits out there. Just depends whether Daniel Levy and Scott Munn can identify the right player at the right price, allow us to bring them in and leave enough money left over in the budget for the next guy and the last couple. It's a very interesting time to be a Tottenham fan. I love these transfer windows, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Who would you prefer, Tapsoba or Van der Ven? Would you like Bremer? Would you like Kilman? And what about Jarrod Bowen? Any feasibility or interest in your mind? I'm not so sure on that one. I'll leave it there. Like, subscribe and comment, guys. And as always, bye-bye.